So, I think I'm live. Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's doing okay. It's been a little while since I've done a live stream. This is Chris from the channel Comic Tropes, and every once in a while I just feel like drawing. But really, this is just an excuse for me to chat with the viewers out there and talk about either the show or comics or whatever crosses our minds. And I'm just doodling while we do this. Looks like somebody's jumping into the chat room here. We've got RLSG Jonathan. Hello. Hello to Crazy Gamers and Araceli Chavez. Hello, Shane and Gustavo. James, G-Swags, Josh Does Things. Not a Bizarre Jojo. Lots of folks here. Let me, give me a moment. I just launched it. Didn't expect people to just be jumping in, which is awesome. Thank you very much. I'm glad to have you all here. Feel free to basically ask whatever you feel like, and I will in turn try to answer whatever I can. Whoops. I'm just going to share the fact that this has gone live on some of my social media. So bear with me just a moment, and I will be looking at the screen. So I'm not looking at the chat too closely just yet, but I will in just a moment. I appreciate everybody's patience. Hello, Shirley. Hello to so many people. Wow. Arthur, Jack, Caesar, Captain Negativity, Mango Doo, Victor V, Jack White, Thomas, Skits Animations, Paul Martin. What is this? Emomi, Face Spaz, Lord, Mute That Bozo. Wow. Wow. Oh, yeah, that's true. In the title, I guess I say I'm drawing Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel. Just to be clear, I should have probably said this. I'm not drawing Shazam. I just felt like drawing Carol Danvers and Kamala Khan. I don't draw women a lot. I feel like I need the practice. So the loosest of sketches here that I'm going to tighten up, and then I'm going to ink and maybe even color, depending on how much time this all takes. But just looking to sketch mostly as an excuse to chat with all of you. That's primarily what's going on here right now. So, really glad to have so many people here, especially since it's Sunday night and probably a lot of you are going to work or school first thing in the morning. So, didn't necessarily expect a big crowd, but I'm grateful for it. Thank you. Definitely have some stuff to talk about, like with the show and stuff too, I think. Just give me a moment while I post to my social media feeds that this is live. Hope everybody's doing all right. I know it's tough times, but hopefully, you guys are healthy. I really hope that your friends and family are as well, neighbors, etc. My hair is a little crazy. It's not as bad as like if you were watching like Comic Tropes, you saw my pandemic hair. It got harder and harder for me to sort of style it just to look good on camera, and like in the back it was just insane. Oh, that was getting rough. I got a haircut, but now it is getting a little poofy again. I'm just gonna share this to a few more places, but let's see if I can't answer at least some of what's going on in here. Oh, it's Saturday night! Folks, that's embarrassing. I was thinking it was Sunday night because I go back to work tomorrow. I work on Sunday. You all probably get tomorrow off. I hope. That's... did I study drawing? Not formally, but I have taken classes here and there, and I love going to like live drawing sessions for something like, say, Dr. Sketchy's. If you've ever heard of that, I think that that's a blast where you get to, do timed drawings of a real model. And I love doing that stuff. I draw a lot, but not as much as like if it was my full-time job or anything like that. I wish, I guess I just sort of at a certain point said, hey, I'll gladly take, as many freelance assignments as I essentially can. So I usually end up doing at least like 1 or 2 comics a year. Now, just to be clear, I'm not talking Marvel or DC, but, maybe like anything from like, a pinup or a page or 2 in a crowdfunded comic to, you know, an educational comic. You know, I always do something, but I'm not really a pro per se. Have I drawn with fountain pens? Not precisely. I mean, I've got a lot of tools here. You know, I've got, like, you know, things like nib pens. I've got some technical pens. And then I've got, like, a lot of different brush pens. So, you know, I do have, like, you know, traditional sort of, like, you know, ink and nibs that I can use. You know, I'm just always trying to mess around with it all. Just realizing that I think this here is trying to autofocus. So let me adjust the setting. And then I sort of want to talk about some of, like, my latest episodes and everything as well. And as well as take questions from all of y'all. Yeah, it's autofocusing. So let me turn that off. Okay, so now, yeah, now it won't, like, sort of, like, get fuzzy at least. Which costume am I drawing for Carol? I'm going to draw her sort of a current suit, I believe. Have I read Firepower? You know what? I've actually only flipped through it. I've been so busy, I haven't actually sat down to read Firepower yet. But I had such a great time interviewing Robert. That was a blast. I hope some of you watched that, and if you haven't, I definitely encourage you to, because I think that there really is a lot that you can learn about how comics work from everywhere. Like, I mean, we talk about self-publishing, we talk about working at Marvel, we talk about working at Image. That's a lot of different things to cover, and I definitely think that there's stuff that you can learn from it. And, you know, some people say, oh, this was a little awkward. Well, I think it's because sometimes I talk over Robert here and there, but that's specifically because, you know, like, we're friends, and I was trying to joke around with my friend. So it's this weird mix between trying to do, like, you know, a professional interview, which I've done many, many times, and joking around with somebody that I've known for about 20 years. So, yeah, that's let's see. What is your favorite run on Gru between publishers? That's an interesting question, because I do love Gru. I would say that, like, overall, probably his run at Marvel, just because that was sort of the longest. That was sort of like the sweet spot. But no issue of Gru is bad, in my opinion. They're all pretty darn funny. I'm trying to collect the first 100 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, and I was wondering if you had any tips on how I could get them. It's a lot easier these days than it used to be. You know, you don't have to go to a comic shop. You've got stuff like eBay that makes it pretty easy. Please read Teo Matsumoto. He's done a ton of excellent work, and the newest release in English by him is something really special. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. That sounds interesting. Oh, I'm glad you liked the Robert Kirkman interview, Silver. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I know it's a little different to do something like, what do you call it, an interview, and then to, like, break it up into so many parts. I didn't expect the interview to necessarily go as long as it did, you know, but Robert gave me, like, just shy of 2 hours of time, and then I was like, you know what, I could put this up as one video that's almost 2 hours long, and there's going to be a few people that care, that are either hardcore fans of Robert or mine, that are going to watch it all the way through. But the average person, I think that their attention span for a YouTube video is closer to 15 to 20 minutes. So I made the intentional decision to, like, sort of go all the way through and divide it up into chunks of, like, things that he's talking about, sort of break it up by topics. Am I planning to watch The Boys Season 2 or Umbrella Academy Season 2? Definitely The Boys. I thought that show was fantastic. I'm a fan of Eric Kripke, the guy that's the showrunner on it. I think he's done some good stuff. I haven't watched everything he's done, but he created Supernatural ran it for the first 5 seasons. I think that's a really solid show. And I really liked Boys Season 1. I did an episode where I argued that I think it improved on the comic. I really do. I think it was about something as compared to just satirizing superheroes. I think instead it was sort of like the show was more about, like, taking a close look at the problems with capitalism, just sort of the as compared to just making fun of superheroes, which is a little easy. I'm not very good with my Copics. Do you have any tips? I'm probably not, like, the best one to ask, because I'm not a professional colorist. I really just sort of mess around with my Copics. All I can say is, you know, you can test out what the color looks like on a separate piece of paper as compared to coloring an actual drawing. And then just keep in mind that they can always sort of blend a little. One thing I think that you can do if you want to sort of get the colors right, or I'm saying more like, I guess, the hues, is you can start with just sort of like, a range of like different grays, light to dark grays, and you can start very light and like build darker if you just get like, a set of like different grays, and then Copic's blend, so then you can lay a color over that. So that's at least one way to go. I'm gonna have to like keep looking up. I'm not an expert on these characters, so I'm gonna have to like look up their costumes real quick. Actually, you know what? I can do it on this computer in front of me. You're just gonna see me looking at a weird angle for a moment. All right, so she's got like a 6-point star. I'll just sort of lay that in roughly, and I'll fine-tune that. She's got... Carol Danvers has like a high collared shirt, it looks like. And then, where does it go? It goes sort of out from here. Goes out across her arms like that. All right. And then she's got a line that goes up like that. Okay. All right. I'll figure that out. That's cool. And then anything else just sort of goes down there. Hope I didn't make her breasts too big. But, figuring this character out. Okay, and then Ms. Marvel has some sort of like a lightning bolt theme going here. She's got... Then it comes across... Okay. Hopefully. And then she's got some sort of a gold arm piece there. All right. I think that's hopefully enough so that I can get the rest of the costume. And she's got a little domino mask. I love that. Classic domino mask. Bringing it back. Good for you, Kamala Khan. Let's see what we've got for questions here. Let's see. I was wondering what was a dark comic like Brat Pack that you've read and enjoyed. Dark stuff. Preacher. That's kind of dark. What else? What else is dark? Jeez, it's hard to think. I mean, a lot of the stuff in the mid-'80s was, something I love is Kraven's Last Hunt, but that's almost like showing how Spider-Man is not a dark character. Like, he goes through something very dark, but he himself does not go dark. Is there a particular thing you find frustrating to draw? Probably the same stuff a lot of people think of. Cars can be very tricky. I really need reference to get that stuff right. Certain buildings. I don't think I'm very good at women, which is why I'm trying to draw this. Practice, basically. Yeah. Let's see. What else? Don't you usually put out live streams on pros and cons? I try to. The difference is I just feel like I haven't necessarily tried to connect directly with my slightly larger audience, which is here on Comic Tropes itself. But yeah, I do generally try to do this stuff on my second channel, Pros and Cons, which is usually a much smaller, more intimate gathering. Oh, and then there's always the advantage of this. Thank you very much, Mojama, for the super chat, £5, and he says, have you considered making an episode on Osamu Tezuka's career? First of all, yes. His work ethic and output was insane. The man was the Japanese Jack Kirby, to say the least. Osamu Tezuka is hugely influential to artists around the world. He's amazing. Definitely a one-of-a-kind, great creator. I did one episode on him, like in sort of an early episode, very specifically about one of his most famous runs on Astro Boy, the most powerful robot in the world, I believe it's called. And I've also covered Pluto as one of my first episodes. I haven't gone back and watched those in a long time, though, so that it's different. I didn't know what I was doing the same way I do today. So yeah, I really can't speak to how good or bad the quality is. And I've definitely considered doing like another sort of follow-up about Osamu Tezuka's whole career, because he's amazing. He really is. What do you think of the Crossed series? I haven't read Crossed. Who wrote that? I know it's a British guy. Was it Mark Miller that wrote that? I'm not sure. Let's see. All right, we're gonna... Yeah. Is comic tropes your main source of income? No. I have a job selling used cars, and I do pretty darn well at it. But comic tropes and YouTube is... I may actually make more on YouTube than I do at my day job, but I don't feel like I make enough on YouTube to survive on just that income, if that makes sense. So I think I do make a little bit more on YouTube than like sort of my day job, but my day job gives me, benefits, and I do make a certain amount of money. So I have a full-time job plus my stuff that I do for the YouTube channel. It's challenging. It really is. I would love to do like just comic tropes. I just don't quite feel like it would work yet. Maybe someday. We'll see. Okay, I guess somebody here doesn't like me. So be it. Let's see. Thank you very much for the super chat from Josh Does Things. Hey Chris, big fan here. I've watched the channel since the Invincible episode. Okay, that was pretty early on. Just sending some support and hope you're doing well. Stay safe. Well, thank you. That's really awesome. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have I seen the new Iron Man designs by Alex Ross? I haven't, but I like Alex Ross generally, so I would love to see them sometime soon. We shall see. What else did I miss? Who's my favorite director? There's a lot that I like, but Stanley Kubrick's way up there. For the most part, I really like Sam Raimi. Who's like some more recent guys that are making movies now? Ari Aster has made some good horror stuff that I really like. There's a bunch of guys. There's a bunch. Marco says that he hated selling used cars. Well, it ain't the best. It ain't the best, but it makes good money. So, for now anyway, that's what I'm doing. My background is in marketing, and I've always sort of worked, basically in an office for big companies, coming up with, ad campaigns and promotional campaigns and stuff. I moved out here about 6 years ago for a good job. They paid to move us out, and my fiance's parents live out here, so we were definitely excited for the opportunity to live near family and stuff. Unfortunately, that company did downsize after like about 3 years of me being there, and so I had to find something else, and I don't have many people to network here, so I went into a completely different type of job, but something where I could still at least earn some good money. So anyway, that's what I do. Who's my favorite Marvel superhero? I would say Spider-Man. I just grew up a Spider-Man fan, so yeah, Spider-Man. That's a fun question, thanks. Sometimes it's hard to think of your favorites on the spot. I know that sounds silly, but like people ask me favorite stuff all the time, and I don't always have a great answer. I love your Robert Kirkman videos. Thank you. Appreciate it. We had fun. How do you feel about the constant negativity, YouTube rant culture, and this addiction to watching YouTubers just share content creators to pieces for clicks? I'm not too into that, but I'm also really not in a community that does that too much. You know, like I'm not talking about, you know, personality driven stuff or like, you know, reviewing beauty products or, you know, doing reaction videos, like the kind of stuff that creates drama on YouTube. So I'm sort of like just existing off in my own like relatively quiet corner, just sort of talking about the stuff that I love, the medium that I love anyway. I love comics, and I think that it's just a blast to get to talk about them all the time. And I don't expect everybody to agree with my, you know, my take all the time. That's fine. But, you know, hopefully I at least reason out why I feel the way I do on comics and, you know, that we can learn something from that point of view. Hey, it's my sister. Hey, Jean. I recently subscribed, so I was wondering if you're a fan of manga anime. What are your favorites? I like it. I'm not how do I describe this? I am a fan. I'm not like a huge like guy that knows tons and tons of animes and mangas and stuff like that. But I definitely have some favorites. You know, these days I really like My Hero Academia. I like that a lot, and I'll read anything by Naoki Urasawa, one of my all-time favorite creators. I just think he's a genius. So. You know, and I've done some episodes about some others, like Blade of the Immortal, or what else have I covered, guys? Astro Boy, One Piece. In terms of like anime, like Akira is way up there. Oh yeah, I did an episode about Akira in Japan, so that one was a lot of fun to do. Got to record at the YouTube studios in Tokyo, so that was a really fun, unique experience. Yeah. Junji Ito, yeah. People say thoughts on Comicsgate. Yeah, not a fan at all. I think it's a pretty depressing piece of our fandom these days. I definitely don't see it as a positive influence on anybody. Let's see. Oh, best advice for aspiring comic artists? Well, first of all, just draw all the time. Draw from life as much as you can, because your style will come through no matter what. And then, you know, just don't take no for an answer when it comes to rejections. Just be willing to submit crazy amount of stuff. What comics have you illustrated? You know, most of it is not stuff that you're gonna find anymore because it's all sort of like, you know, indie and stuff like that. But some of the books that you can find that I worked on that are in like, you know, bookstores and stuff are going to be Trickster. That's a book about like Native American tales that was actually all written by Native American tribe members about their tribe's version of a trickster legend. So I illustrated a story in that. There's Colonial Comics Volume 1 and 2 I did stories in. Hope that I do an episode on Hal Foster one day. I'd love to. Also Alex Raymond from that era. And Hergé. Yeah, very influential artist on all sorts of, not just bande dessinée, but European comics in general. So those are definitely guys that I'll talk about at some point. Astro City, I'll definitely think about that. Dan Slott, I've got comments on. This is going faster than I can catch everything, so you can always sort of like repeat something in that. No, I wouldn't agree with that, Rebel Leaf. I honestly wouldn't. Sorry. Do you like the martial law series? I do. I wouldn't say that like I'm the world's biggest fan or anything like that, but I do think that it's funny. I think it's that was Kevin O'Neill, I believe, as the artist, and I think it's some of his top tier work for sure. Love Astro City. Yep. Let's see. Bern Hogarth wasn't too shabby. Yeah, Bern Hogarth is talented. For some reason, his work didn't really connect with me too much. It's that's art though, right? Like beauty is in the eye of the beholder and all that. It's interesting how there are definitely some people that are considered greats that for whatever reason I'm like, okay, I'm not a big fan. But when I was younger, I wasn't really a fan of Jack Kirby, and then one day it just sort of all clicked. It's so weird. Like now I just really admire the stuff that Kirby brought to the table. His whole aesthetic is fascinating. Will you be on the Party Pizza podcast? I've never heard of that one, I'm afraid. So, who knows? I'll do most things if I've got time. Would I do another Tales from the Crypt episode? Possibly. There's a lot to say about EC. A hugely influential company that had some really amazing top tier talent in their overall brief time as a publisher. Overall, it lasted longer than plenty, but yeah. What pens do you use for inking? I don't think many professionals would use these, but for just having fun and drawing quickly, these Pigma brushes by Sakura, these brush pens are pretty fun. Let's see, what are your thoughts on the character of Iron Man? He's great. I mean, there's a guy that goes through an actual change of heart. I think that that kind of stuff's awesome. He was a war profiteer that saw the damage his work was doing and was hurt directly by it, and he bears those scars. I think that's pretty cool. I think there's a lot to like about the idea of Iron Man. Awesome content, keep it up. Looking forward to the Hal Foster episode. Well, thank you very much, Andrelix67 from Canada. So thank you very much. That's awesome. Hellblazer and John Constantine. That's a good idea. I don't think I've ever talked about John Constantine, and there's been a lot of different runs on Hellblazer by a lot of top tier writers. So that's an interesting idea. Tyrant comics. Are you talking about Tyrant by Rick Veitch? That would be something I'd like to talk about. Why you never talked about Brian Lee O'Malley? Because I would love to. I can only just do so much, There's so many great artists out there, and by saying artists, I mean, writers, pencilers, inkers, colorists, editors, publishers. There's so many people that I'd love to discuss. I just haven't gotten to them all. Trust me, there's lots of ideas. Comic tropes can go on for a very long time. Pardon me. Let's see. I'm still waiting on a Sandman episode. Well, that's true. Sometimes I think I might talk about Sam Keith and Sandman in sort of one fell swoop. We'll see. Because that was something where Sam Keith kind of started to make his name, and yet a lot of people kind of forget that was something he did. They think of the Max first. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just sort of the overall impression I get when I talk about Sam Keith with people. I've never heard of Resident Evil comics. No. Let's see. What are my thoughts on Jack Kirby's writing? Yeah, I actually sort of did an episode on that when I talked about his Inhumans run. It's interesting. He's a great idea man. You know, I'll definitely say that. He was a great idea man for stories. His actual like writing style and technique, I don't have anything against, but I also don't necessarily think it's anything to write home about. I feel like I don't always remember, you know, like his dialogue and stuff like that, if that makes sense. But his ideas are amazing. His ideas are amazing. And it'll be interesting when Eternals finally comes out to sort of see another wave of people discussing Jack Kirby's writing, you know? Because that's definitely something that'll happen soon. Kirby's dialogue was terrible. I don't think that was like, you know, his strong suit at all, but his ideas were great. Talk about a guy who embraced his own style, Sam Keefe. Yeah, that is true. You know, there's only so many guys out there that drew like Sam Keefe does. Or I mean in the sense of like just sort of like just totally embracing their own style and going for it, because nothing else looks like his work, that's for sure. It's a complex guy to talk about. It's definitely been something I've started making an episode about several times before, and then I just can't finish it. Where to submit art? I guess it really depends on what you want to do with your career. Have I read any Shozu Oshimi? No, I have to admit I haven't heard of that creator, so I'll have to try to remember to look that up. Always looking for good recommendations. Always. I hope I made like Kamala Khan actually look like a kid and Carol look like a woman. That's part of like the challenge here, is to actually like make people that are certain ages look right, you know? But thanks to everybody for being here. Thoughts on the Snyder Justice League cut? Doesn't really interest me too much. I didn't care for that movie, and I just can't imagine like a few extra scenes or a different edit making a huge difference to me. Am I curious? I'm curious. I mean, I love comic books, so I'm curious. But am I excited about it? Not really, if I'm being honest. And it's fine. We'll see what happens. I'm not too excited. Pitch your ideal Superman movie. That's a tough one. His origin is, in my opinion, his best story, but it's also something that everybody's seen by now. Like, everybody kind of knows his origin. So what I would do is sort of go I just adapt something from All-Star Superman, which is one of my all-time favorite Superman stories, and kind of tells his origin super condensed in like a page or so, and then we just go from there. So that would be what I would do, is some sort of adaptation of All-Star Superman. I think that's a really cool story. Where is my eraser? I rarely use it. Ah, there it is, but this line is bothering me. There we go. What are your thoughts on Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman? Yeah, didn't really care for those takes either. Too trying to be moody and dark, and I feel like you can put Superman in that environment, but he himself should basically be a happy guy. I feel like Superman is overall happy. He was raised in a good, loving home and has made the life that he wants to live. You know, he wants to be a reporter. He isn't doing that just to be a superhero. So I like the idea of a Superman that's a little happier. Now, there's got to be conflict, don't get me wrong. But I don't want him to be sort of like mopey or whiny or, you know, just like, oh, I'm an alien, I'm an outsider. I'm like, that's an interesting story, but I don't think it's Superman's story. It would be cool if he talks about Next Wave. I love Next Wave. I don't really want to talk about Warren Ellis these days. I need to learn more about what's going on with him. But Jesse Bia, thank you so much for the super chat. Going through all the episodes on the channel has helped me so much during quarantine, my recent COVID-related layoff. Oh my God, so sorry, Jesse. And then let me just scroll up real quick. Any recommendations for comics similar in theme, setting, style to Lone Wolf and Cub? Oh, very cool question. Lone Wolf and Cub is great. Stuff that's similar. Well, I mean, you can look up stuff that the writer did. He did some really bonkers comics, the writer of Lone Wolf and Cub. But I think that Blade of the Immortal shares some similarities in terms of sort of like a wandering Ronin, essentially, and like caring for someone else, in this case for Jin, like a young girl that has like a mission of revenge. So I think that there are some sort of tonal similarities there, not the same plot or the same characters, but there's some similarities there. You might want to look that one up. Can you do more? I have problem with videos. I mean, I sort of do, and I'll be honest. The current episode I'm making is kind of like an I have problem with, because it was a comic I came across and I was just stunned at how bad it seemed to be. So we'll see. But that's something I'm sort of doing. But I just don't explicitly say, I've got issues. We'll see. We'll see where that goes. Thank you very much for asking. Appreciate it. Vagabond. Yep, there's a good recommendation. For whoever asked about, I think it was Jesse asked about like comics similar to Lone Wolf and Cub. Aldi suggests Vagabond. I think that's a pretty strong recommend. That makes sense. Have I been reading Bendis' Superman? I haven't, to be honest. Will there be a new comic tropes tomorrow? No, I'm sorry. I just, I basically haven't had enough days off lately to get it right. I have written a bunch of it, and I've saved and scanned most of the images that I need, but it needs a lot of work still, so no, I won't have one ready for tomorrow. This is the closest we're going to get to new content from me for this week is this, and then I should have a new episode pretty soon. Did anyone else play The Last of Us Part 2? That's something I've been playing a little bit here and there. I don't play too many hours because I know that, people are relying on me for a new episode, but sometimes you have to like give yourself a mental break, I honestly believe, as well as, potentially get inspired by, different types of entertainment. And anyway, the short point I'm trying to make, not so shortly, is that I thought it was really good. I thought the story is incredible. So that's something that gets a recommend from me, was I really liked The Last of Us Part 2. It's a meditation on people that just can't seem to accept loss. I'm not going to spoil any of the story, but I will say that I thought it was quite good and that I enjoyed the gameplay that I've been playing. So, wow, a super chat here from 94 Evangelion. Let's see. Love your videos. Hope you're well. Anyway, speaking of Carol and Kamala, I feel the characters should have more interactions considering the legacy aspect. Also excited for Marvel's Ultraman comic. Yeah, I don't read a lot of modern comics, so I don't know how much or how little interaction these two actually have. But I do like the idea of legacy characters. So ever since The Flash, I've really enjoyed the idea of legacy characters. I just think that's kind of a cool, unique thing for superheroes, is the idea of somebody else picking up the mantle. Oh, wow. Thank you, John Dorsey. Huge fan. Just binge-watched your whole first year. It's probably very different than what I do now. Whoop, I have to see what that said. Sorry. Here's a small token of my appreciation. Well, it's sincerely appreciated. Just know that. Like, these super chats are really special to me. That means a lot. Thank you. Would you consider a video on P. Craig Russell? Short answer, first of all, yes. Tried to watch Wagner's Ring Cycle, and then I lost it. Yeah, I studied Wagner's Ring Cycle a little bit when I was in college. Not for a class, because I was just legit curious about it. But it's been a long time since I looked at that. Here's the stuff that I've been avoiding. I feel like hands are just really hard. I don't know. They shouldn't be. I feel like an artist worth their salt should be able to bang out hands and faces very quickly. For whatever reason, I always feel like my hands need work. Legacy versus derivative. Yeah, there probably is a difference. Oh, did my camera freeze? Oh, no, okay. Derivative. Derivative is like, sort of some spin-offs. There are some spin-offs, I guess, but a lot of times they do work. I feel like She-Hulk, for instance, was created as a very derivative idea, but lucked out by getting placed in good writers' hands relatively early in her overall run, and she became a lot more interesting. The fact that she's a lawyer is interesting. The fact that, she hasn't necessarily given up her career. She's got a sense of humor. I feel like She-Hulk is an example, and she's not exactly a legacy character. She's what you could call a derivative character. But I feel like she's a pretty interesting character that has overall been served quite well over the years. It's just one example. Don't you want to try The Art of Hands by Rob Liefeld? Well, even he's probably better than me, so what do I know? Yeah, I saw the Firefly TV show. I remember a friend lent me the DVD set, so it was after, it had been canceled. But I watched it. It was pretty good. I had been a fan of Buffy and Angel by Joss Whedon, so I'd seen some stuff by him. Don't know why I didn't really watch Firefly when it originally came out, but I did discover it relatively shortly after. I think I still watched that DVD set before they did the movie. Yeah. Just found your channel the other day and I'm digging catching up on your content. Well, that's great. If anybody here is new, just, I definitely would appreciate it if you're able to subscribe, if you're able to hit like on any of the videos. Just letting you know, that stuff actually really helps the channel. When you can hit like, if you hit subscribe, those things really help. So just wanted to put that out there. I try not to say it too much, but I used to not say it at all, and I realized that by saying it even a little bit, it helped tremendously. So it is needed. Good morning. Oh, wow. Different country, I guess. Hello, Lemron. 1 a.m.? Wow. Let's see, 10, 11, 12, 1. Oh, okay, you're on the East Coast. East Coast, okay. Let's see, an episode about Joe Stanton's S.E. Man? Wasn't that just E-Man? Maybe that was a typo. I think. What do I think of Ethan Van Sciver's Cyberfrog? Never read it. No real interest. Are you using an image to draw from? This is just a sketch. Just messing around. Nothing special. I would also love to see you discuss Usagi Yojimbo. Oh, I should do that. Yeah, Usagi Yojimbo. That's actually a really good idea. Yeah, I used to read some Usagi Yojimbo back in the mid 80s when I was discovering like all sorts of black and white comics. The big one that I got into was Ninja Turtles, like a lot of people, I guess. But yeah, I that's a cool idea to talk about Usagi Yojimbo. It's been going a long time. I've never done anything on the Flaming Carrot either. But Bob Burden, right? Yeah. I've read Eric Powell's The Goon. Sometimes I'm surprised that The Goon isn't more popular than it is. I think that The Goon is quite good. It's very different. Yeah, I think it's a cool comic. And I think Eric Powell's a really talented artist. Really talented. Thanks for being a great YouTuber. I don't know about that, but thank you. What do you do when you're finished with... Oh, what do I do with the art when I'm finished with the live streams? I guess I can just kind of stack them up. I don't really do anything with them. Like, let's see. I think that these were all from last October when I did Inktober. I just sort of stacked them on a shelf here. I couldn't think of what to do with them. I was doing just like drawing all sort of horror stuff. Like every day. And that was fun. Created a few good pieces, a few that like, you know, not as good. But then I don't know what to do with them. I totally forgot about most of these. You can kind of tell, like, when I had more time than others. Boy, you know, wow, that one came out kind of good, actually. That's egotistical to say, but I like that. I guess I'll just finish now that I've started, but, you know, I joined your channel like 3 years ago, maybe more, but I love how you break down everything. Never quit. I've sent some fan art. Mine was the Galactus you. Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. Yeah, your name definitely sounds familiar. You could gift them instead of gachapons. Yeah, I guess I could. I don't know. No. Gift them, huh? I don't know. But the idea is, like, what if I sent it out and, like, someone was just like, I don't really want this, you know, then I'd feel kind of like a little bad, but then again, like, I guess it's all just going in the recycle bin at some points, no matter what, so, I don't know. Jeez, I have more stacked up than I realized I had. No, that one did not come out well. Ooh, this one came out even worse. Yeah, a few of these are, like, definitely, like, really loose. I was working fast early on, and then I started finding myself with some more time. This one isn't too bad. That one isn't too bad. Almost done. Huh, yeah. So, anyway, but now I'll just stack these up to the side again. I know I have others around here from other, like, live streams, so, well, now they're all out of order. I'll just put them over here. Like, well, I just have art just stacked up all over the place. Like I was drawing The Mandalorian, but I never finished it, you know? I drew, I can't even remember this character's name, but when I was playing The Witcher 3, I played that, like, not that long ago. Siri, I want to say her name is, but I don't know. But they're all pinups too, you know. So it's like, I'm glad if they look good, but at the same time, you know, what does a professional artist have to do in comics? It's not just draw a good image. It's tell a story, and I'm very aware that that's not what I'm doing with these. I'm just doing a pinup, which is, honestly, pinups are easy. Anyone can do a good image. Anyone can do a good image if they take time. But telling a story with the image, that's what takes the talent. So potentially maybe what I should be doing with these live streams is sketching out full, like, sort of more like storyboards or something, now that I'm thinking of it, because you know, this is, yeah, maybe that's what I should be doing, is doing actual sequential pages. That's more important. But all I can say is I'm just sort of doing this stuff for fun, to try to improve, and so hopefully I'm getting something out of that. Hopefully you're getting something out of that, because I can chat with you. But yeah, that occurs to me now as I look at all those. Those were just all pinups. That's not that impressive. Are you getting tired of the MCU? Not really, honestly. I've kind of been enjoying it quite a bit. Thoughts on Greg Capullo? He's very good. I stuttered. I'm getting tired. He's very good. Very good. Yeah, it would be interesting to do an episode about him. I remember, the thing I really remember most about him was more looking at his work in the early days. I used to read Quasar, and he was the artist on that. And I want to say Mark Grunwald was the writer. It was definitely like a lesser seen title, but I thought Capullo was great on that, and his style has honestly changed a bit since then. Oh wow, Connor Brown with this super chat. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. It really does. Thank you. Anyway, yeah, just sort of remember that was an older book that I really enjoyed his work on, and now, you know, he's gone on to do so much stuff with Spawn and Batman that a lot of people definitely know him now. I mean, he's really become a superstar artist, but that wasn't overnight or anything. You know, it took him a long time to get where he's at. So I admire his perseverance. Have I done any writing? On stuff that's been essentially self-published and stuff, I have, but yeah. What is the story between me and Robert Kirkman? There's no story. We're just friends. No story. I love how dedicated you are to your subscribers. Well, thanks, Aiden. I definitely try very hard to come out with as much content as I can while still trying to maintain an ongoing improvement in general quality. You know, I wish, you know, for just over 3 years, I pretty much always hit that weekly schedule. I think there were literally in 3 years, something like 2 weeks where I was just maybe too sick to continue. But work and the pressures of just trying to have quality control have led to, obviously I've slowed down a tiny bit. I wish I had a little more time. If the channel does continue to grow, and, you know, I could get to something probably closer to, I don't know, 200,000 subscribers, maybe 250, then I think I'd probably be able to consider this a full-time job, and at that point, I think I could generate content more consistently and regularly. We'll see, you know, but that's something I definitely have in mind as a potential for the future. Bedtime for me. Yes, well, thank you very much for jumping in. It was very nice to have you here. I appreciate it. You have comics? Please tell us the names of your comics. I've got a small collection like a lot of people. Yeah. Hello, Portugal. Hello from the United States. I can only assume Portugal is healthier than we are here these days. So, hello, Miguel. My thoughts on Humberto Ramos. Yeah, I really liked him when I was younger, and he did stuff for Cliffhanger Comics, which was like an imprint at Image. I have not seen a ton of what he's done in more recent years. I also liked his stuff on like Impulse and stuff. I believe he did stuff on Flash and Impulse. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that right. But the only stuff I've seen in more recent years were like a few issues of, I think, Dan Slott's run on Spider-Man. I believe that they had like a rotating bevy of artists, and he did some of those issues. Very stylized. I could definitely see some people saying too stylized, but it doesn't bother me too much. I think it's cool. I don't know Greg Capullo's Reborn. Sorry, I don't know that. Yes, these streams are usually on pros and cons. I just sort of randomly decided to do it on this one to talk to a bigger swath of my viewership. Maybe that's greedy of me. I don't know. I like doing it on the smaller channels sometimes because it's more intimate. But I just felt like doing it with a big group. Oh, let's see. I absolutely love your channel. Thank you. Thoughts on Dan Slott's run on Spider-Man? You know, I know that a lot of people aren't fans of Dan Slott's run. I know that that's a fact. At the same time, it went on for a very long time, so he obviously wasn't like tanking the book, or Marvel would have simply pulled him off. I liked it. I liked his run on Spider-Man quite a bit, to be honest. I loved the Superior Spider-Man, and I also liked Spider-Verse stuff. So, yeah, personally, I think I guess I like his sense of humor, and I like his ideas. I liked the Superior Spider-Man arc a lot. I thought that was a really fascinating story to tell, of like sort of showing a supervillain learning to become a better person just by pretending. Like, you pretend to be good and you end up becoming good. Yeah, I read House of X and Powers of 10. Thought it was fantastic. Fantastic. Loved it. Finally, a new idea in X-Men. Totally new. Mr. Kirkman mentioned him several times in the interview, but any plans for an episode on Stuart Immonen, or even just his Superman secret identity? I'll definitely cover him someday. Fantastic artist. Hugely influential. Hugely influential. Am I excited for 3 Jokers? No, not really. It doesn't really mean much to me. Maybe it'll be good, though. You don't know. I'm not saying it'll be bad. I don't follow a lot of superhero stuff these days. I kind of just sort of pop in and out to see what people are talking about. And, there is good stuff. There definitely is. I think that Immortal Hulk is great. I really do. I know there's some other superhero stuff. The stuff Daniel Warren Johnson is doing these days, he is incredible. Daniel Warren Johnson's Wonder Woman Dead Earth, check that out. Oh my God, is it badass. So good, so good. Thoughts on We 3? It'll almost make you cry. It might make you cry, and that's okay. It's good. It's a good story. Were you ever a fan of the colored version of Jeff Smith's Spawn? I think it's very well done, actually. I do. I read it originally in black and white, and that was totally enough for me. But, it was a very well done colored version, so I have no real complaints about that or anything. Let's see, I'm kind of realizing that I'm almost done with this drawing. I didn't necessarily think I would get done, but yeah. Well, here, let me clean up some of the pencil, and I guess I'll color it a little bit. That's what I'll do. I used to think erasers just didn't work until I discovered the kneaded eraser. And the kneaded eraser on good paper, wow. It's amazing how quickly you can get rid of pencil lines. So while this drawing definitely has a few flaws, there's enough that works on it to make it worth continuing. Who sings your intro song? What was it? Kind of like more of a friend that I just hired. I don't even know the guy's name, sorry. It was work for hire. I explained exactly what it was. Paid something or other for it. And it was like, just mine. Ever get a video on how Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan getting blackballed after winning their Bane settlement? No, I gotta admit, I don't know much about that. I'll have to read that story. I don't know anything about that one. That's news. That is news that I can use. Alright, let's see. How do you warm up before doing a drawing? Well, that's the thing. I don't always, which is not awesome. But what do I do? Just draw things that are like more comfortable to me, that I feel confident about, and then hopefully something comes from that. Thank you for the compliment, Aiden. Huge fan, and you're my favorite creator on YouTube. Oh, for the love of God, make a video on Matt Fraction's Casanova. Well, it's definitely a possibility. I definitely respect Matt Fraction, and he's created a lot of interesting books. So, yeah, never say never. That's definitely something I would be interested in making. So don't worry. There's so many creators, guys, that I admire and love, and that's why I make this channel. It's because I'm endlessly amazed and inspired by these people, and if I haven't done an episode on your favorite creator yet, that is not because I am not going to do it or because I don't like them. It's just because I can only do so much, you know. There's so much that I want to talk about, and I read a wide swath of comics. It's not all superhero stuff. It's not all indie stuff. It's not all foreign stuff. It's not all recent stuff. It's not all old stuff. So I read a lot of different types of comics, and my channel will always try to sort of jump around a little bit to vary that up. I hope I do talk about some of your favorites, but I also hope that I might be able to introduce you to some stuff that maybe you don't know a lot about. If you do know about it, maybe you see it from a different angle. If you don't know about it, maybe I've inspired you to try something new that you will enjoy. I hope. That's my goal. Or sometimes it's stuff that we won't like, but maybe we can at least learn exactly why we don't like it. Maybe there's a specific flaw that we can learn from. So anyway, that's my goal with my channel, is to really bounce around and cover a lot of different types of comics. There's a lot of channels that will just do indie or just do recaps, just do manga, and that's awesome. There's an audience for all of it, but that's not what my channel really is. But that's also probably what keeps it growing, but growing slowly. It does not grow in huge leaps and bounds. Facecam froze. Okay, hold on. I think I can fix that. Let me see here real quick. Facecam froze, and it froze on quite a flattering angle. Lovely. Lovely. Let's see if this works. I think it did. We are back in business. Mafalda. No, I don't know that one. My favorite superhero team. Well, I love the X-Men just like you do. X-Men. Ninja Turtles. I'm getting tired. I love the Ninja Turtles. Love them. But my favorite overall team probably is the X-Men. That's what I was trying to say. That's not to say I love every run on the X-Men. I definitely don't. But when they're done well, I've generally found them to be some of the most fascinating teams of superheroes. They're united in ways, but they're very, very different from each other and from the rest of us. And I don't know, there's lots of conflict to be mined in X-Men. So anyway, Mafalda is great. Okay. Yeah, the rise and fall of lots of indie publishers. Yeah, you're talking about basically the end of the 80s when Comico Eclipse, first publishing Epic. Yeah. Definitely something I'd enjoy discussing for sure. So definitely something I've considered, done plenty of research. Someday I'll be ready to pull the trigger on that. Cool thing about drawing these two characters is pretty simple 3-color color scheme on both of them, red, blue, yellow. So I should be able to sort of bang out like rough colors pretty quickly, and then I can like sort of, depending on how much time I feel like I've got, maybe do some shading or something like that. But just trying to have fun and chat with all of you. So grateful for that. Oh, I know what I forgot to talk about. So, like, I did the Kirkman interview. I was very happy with how it came out. I was very grateful to Robert for his time. And then, all of a sudden, like, about, like, 4 websites just essentially transcribed my interview. And I felt like they really removed any real nuance from it by just sort of, like, saying some of the things that he said about like what he didn't like during his time with Marvel. I'll admit that frustrated me a bit, just because they also didn't really bend over backwards to give me credit. I think each one like has like just like a little sentence somewhere where he said this on a show called Comic Tropes, and that's it. It's not like there's no context about like what kind of stuff we were talking about. It just like, I'm not kidding, I think it's like 5 websites just transcribed Robert's comments and sort of, it's not exactly taking them out of context, but it's also not a very honest way of like representing what he said, in my opinion. I think that they were just like all sort of going very clickbaity with it. So that was a little frustrating. Yeah, a few people saw that. Yeah, they just sort of like, is it my material? I mean, it's my exclusive. Robert had never told the story before, really, about why he left Marvel, and he shared that with me, which I'm very grateful for. But because it's news, I guess once it's out there, everybody felt the right to sort of report on it, and I'm like, I don't think that really that's not really stealing from me. It's I put it out there, essentially. I put it out there with my platform, and if other places are going to report on it, there's not much I can do. I just wish that they had credited me a little bit more. I also wish that they had, in my opinion, been a little kinder to Robert by putting the whole interview in context. I feel like they just sort of focused on some of the negative, and I didn't really like that. So, what can you do? It is what it is. It's frustrating. How long do Copic markers usually last? That is an interesting question. How long do they last? I would say it's not necessarily a time thing, but that, like, a use thing. And I would say that, like, in terms of use, your average Copic will, like, help you fully color, maybe 10, 20 pages before they start to dry out, and you need to sort of refill them or replace them. Since the Old Guard movie came out on Netflix, will you do an Old Guard comic book review? I would have liked to, but if I was going to, I probably would have tried to get it out like just before the movie hit. Now it's already out, and I've got some other things in the works. So if I do, it's going to be a while till I get that there. Meanwhile, in terms of Greg Rucka, the writer, I have done an episode about his writing style. Specifically, I was focusing on his work on Stumptown, but I think that, there's still, like, a lot of valid stuff that you could learn about what Greg Rucka does as a writer by watching that episode. I haven't seen The Old Guard yet. I hope it's interesting. I hope it's good. Has anybody else watched it? And if so, did you enjoy it? I'm curious. Any comments on the 1994 Fantastic Four movie? I think that the actors and director did their best with the very limited resources at their fingertips. I think that the actors especially really gave it their all. There's a documentary about it, and I've seen the movie and I've seen the documentary, and it's a little sad that, like, they were sort of all duped. The production company knew that they were just making the movie to retain the rights so that they could in turn sell those rights to a bigger production company, make real money, with no intention to ever actually release the movie. And that's not really fair to the people that worked on the movie. They didn't know that. A video about Dan Fraga, huh? Well, I've never considered that, but I'm not against it. That's an interesting idea. My dream team of X-Men characters. I just put in all my favorites that like have good conflict with each other, and our friends. So Cyclops and Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Kitty, Storm. Maybe that's enough, and then I just stack the rest of the team with new recruits, because you gotta put in plenty of fresh blood regularly. I don't know. I'd have to think about it some more, but those are some of my favorites that I would love to put on the team. Thanks again for making your vids. It really made me appreciate comics as a medium so much more. Wow, thanks, Henry. I gotta be honest, that's what I'm going for, so hearing that means a lot to me. Thank you very, very much. I hope so. It's a medium that has really rewarded me tremendously. I feel like good comics really connect with me more than other artistic mediums, and I think that, like, any good story really helps us learn something about the human condition and inspires emotions and stuff. So it's very worthwhile. But that's really awesome to hear that it's helped you in any way to connect more with comics. Thank you. Who's my favorite character to draw? I don't know. Probably just somebody that's got lots of interesting characteristics. So he's really obvious, like Wolverine or something like that. Any favorite European comic? My favorite European comic. I definitely have European comics that I love. I love the character of Judge Dredd quite a bit. If I'm being honest, I do like that character. That's like a fascinating piece of sort of satire that's also action. What else do I really love, though? There's a lot of French stuff that I love. I love crime and I love good art, so Black Sad is actually way up there for me. Is one of my favorites. There's some earlier artists that I really admire, like Hugo Pratt. I need to do an episode on Hugo Pratt. That would be dope. Kind of drew her hand more like she had a glove and then just didn't give her a glove. So that's what I have problems with when I draw hands. I'm just not thinking it all the way through. What colors are you using on Ms. Marvel's skin? I decided on, what is it called? It's called Light Suntan, which maybe I should use an even darker thing, but I might be able to use a warm gray to bring that out some more, so we'll see. Use acid yellow for her lightning bolt. Acid yellow. That's just a dope name. Sounds badass. Thoughts on the Punisher Max? Is that one was by Garth Ennis, right? I liked Punisher Max. I thought Barracuda was a great villain. I heard that they're going to bring him into like the 616 Marvel comics, which is good because, yeah, Punisher needs somebody like that. Acid yellow. You know what I'd love to learn about from like an actual colorist is that I realize I don't know anything about is what colors you should use for like people's blonde hair, because back when comics were simpler they just used yellow, but really blonde hair is not yellow. That's artificial, and I'm curious like what, you know, Pantone colors I should be using, what, you know, RGB colors I should be using, what Copics I should be using for blonde hair, because I have to admit I don't feel like I know what I should be using for that. Did you color above Ms. Marvel's mask? Yes, but you know, I might do more. This is just for fun. We're just sort of banging out a basic color scheme here, and looking to chat with all y'all. Reality 666 is hell. Reality 666 should be something totally badass. It should be like the metal version of the Marvel universe. Everyone should be like Vikings and like Icelandic and stuff. That would be cool. That would be cool. Chat, check out Space Riders. It's so dope. Okay. I should really thank you for introducing me to Bernard Krigstein. It's surprising how I've never known about such a great artist, if not for your videos. Oh, I'm so glad, Crumbs. Krigstein was really influential to a lot of artists in terms of what he did with storytelling, so there's a lot to learn from him for sure. How do I send you art? I believe I put it at the end of every episode, comictropes@gmail.com. Simple as that. And then I look at all the fan art, and as long as it has something to do with the show, I'll include it, as long as it's also not offensive. But that's only happened like maybe twice ever. If that. But I mean, that kind of goes without saying, right? Ooh, it's fun to color. This is what adults do to relax, right? I see adult coloring books in every store ever. It is kind of relaxing. Stay in the lines, Chris. Stay in the lines. I did it. What character doesn't have a movie that you think should have a movie? That's an interesting question for sure. What character needs a movie that hasn't had one yet? I don't know, maybe Martian Manhunter? What about him? Green Lantern? They've never made a Green Lantern movie. Who is your favorite comic artist? Oh man, I don't even know. There's so many. John Buscema or John Romita Sr.? Best regards from Brazil. Obrigado, Ricardo. Probably Buscema. Yeah, he's better. Are you going to do shadows? Probably. Yeah, this is a relatively simple drawing, but yeah, I probably will do some. I'll make this a more or less complete piece of artwork, even though it's just a little, whatchamacallit, sketch. I don't know. It's not much more than that. Anybody else happen to watch Hamilton when it came to Disney Plus? I did, and I fucking loved it. Oh, sorry for my language, but I'm a fan of history. I like some musicals. I'm not the most knowledgeable guy, but I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. I'm so excited for the new Venom event in December. Yeah. Well, I did an episode on what's his name, Donny Cates, and he's definitely been building up to this King in Black, and so I think that could be potentially a fun event for Marvel. But that said, personally, I'm kind of over events. Events have burned me out. Crossovers used to be such a special thing, and I don't know, events burned me out a little. But it does look like a fun story, so yeah. Have you seen the Netflix Marvel shows? Yeah, I've seen them. They're okay. Most of them. This is the first time you heard me curse. I try to edit that out in my regular videos. I have to admit, in like real life, I can be a little bit of a potty mouth. But I just figure, while I'm not doing like, exactly family-friendly content, I do feel like it could often distract from the point I'm trying to make. So I try not to swear much in my videos. But yeah, in real life, I do. What else? I love your funny hey there's. Good. The best event comic is Secret Wars 2015. Well, I did love that Pixel Perfect, but I also loved it because it built to it. The same way I actually loved the original Infinity Gauntlet, because it had been building to that in Silver Surfer for, I feel like, about a year or something. So like, there was background and weight to it, and yeah, I liked Secret Wars quite a bit. What I was disappointed by was more the aftermath, where Marvel didn't really take full advantage of it, because they essentially reset their Marvel universe. They could have, made some changes, updates, and I don't feel like any real writers took advantage of that. So I felt like that was pretty disappointing. But that's not the fault of Jonathan Hickman, who built up to and wrote Secret Wars. Secret Wars was great. It was about Marvel's first family. It was a great Fantastic Four story that also mattered to all the other big characters in the Marvel universe. I really liked Secret Wars 2015 a lot. I did. Which of the Oh Hi intros are you most proud of? Oh, you know what? There is one that I'm more proud of than the others. In my Immortal Hulk video, I figured out how to do make like a blood splatter effect, and that took a lot of work to figure out like how to pull off that practical effect. So basically, in that, I get shot and realize that I'm immortal. So I say, let's talk about the Immortal Hulk. What I did for that was I got like a pressurized CO2 canister. Oh, hold on. Kodiak says, Chris, I think you are a genuinely good dude. I'm so happy that you take the stand that you do, one that is pragmatic and ultimately drew me back into comics. Oh, good. I'm glad that you feel like you're into comics. That makes me so happy. If I had anything to do with that makes me very, very happy. And thank you so much for the super chat. And just to wrap up, like I was saying, like, yeah, that intro, I was very proud of, because I figured out how to basically rig a CO2 canister to a plastic line, and you had to like, it has to be sealed so that it's like, not gonna malfunction, and it like was running up my shirt, and I could basically push a button and it would like shoot a burst of air through, and like the fake blood would just explode out of like, these tiny little holes in a hard plastic tube. So that one actually took quite a bit of work for like a gag that's over in like a second. But someone asked like, what was I most proud of? That was the one I was most proud of, because it was the one I put the most work into, and I did it because I was just curious. I was like, well, how could I figure this out? Could I do that? And I could, and I did something different, and it was fun. Let's see. Your art is amazing. You should upload photos of your art somewhere. I usually upload stuff like this to the Instagram page when I draw. So that's Comic Tropes on Instagram. There's not a lot of content there, but if I ever do like a drawing or something, I'll definitely put it there, as well as like little other things like maybe comics that I've picked up, or if I mess around with the Marvel Comics coloring app, which is like an app I have on my phone, I'll usually share things like that every once in a while. So yeah. Oh, thank you, Mandela Butterfly. That's very kind of you. Thoughts on Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern movie? I didn't care for it. I didn't really care for it at all. It tried to do way too much. It was on Earth. It was in outer space. It was his training. It was up against like his ultimate enemy, like Parallax. It was introducing his supporting cast. It was introducing like tons of other Green Lanterns, trying to set up maybe Sinestro. It was just way too much. I didn't think that like his suit looked good at all. Like the idea of that like CG suit, I didn't think it looked good. Yeah, I didn't care for that movie. I wish I did, but not a fan. Thoughts on Marvel's Dark Reign? I don't think I read it, so I don't know. Hot Wheels merch? I don't know anything about Hot Wheels, sorry. I definitely had some when I was a little kid. I didn't have, though, like, what I really wanted as a kid, like, with Hot Wheels, were those, like, plastic orange tracks that you could send the cars down. I always wanted that, but I never had that. What actor for a rebooted Green Lantern? Haven't really thought about something like that. It's an interesting question, but I don't know. I never really daydream about fan casting existing properties, so I'm kind of stumped. Just anybody young and hip should work just fine. Oh, look at this. You should check out Chainsaw Man. What's Chainsaw Man? Is that a comic? Is that a manga? Is that a like, what is it? What's Chainsaw Man? Movie? Yeah, I guess I know what Dark Reign is. I just didn't read it, so yeah, I don't really have an opinion because I didn't read it. Like I say, in general, like, the events and stuff just don't really connect with me too much. It's just too many different, like, sort of side titles to read to get the whole story, and I don't know, it's like all overblown, but then they always sort of kind of trust me, if you've read comics long enough, you know this. It's always like kind of ultimately reset to the status quo, and that's fine, but it doesn't have much lasting impact. Hey Chris, what people say that John Buscema was a Jack Kirby clone, because personally it didn't make sense to me why they would say that, because I think his artwork it very uniquely different. Okay, I don't think I understood everything there, but you did send me a super chat, and I'm super grateful for that. So I think what you're saying is maybe you hadn't heard that before, or you were curious why people said that. And first of all, you're right, I will say, in terms of like, is there artwork stuff that you can tell apart? Absolutely. Their artwork is very easy to tell for the most part. But here's what it was I was just making sure that like my camera wasn't frozen. When Buscema was like, formally trained and could work in almost any style, and what Marvel specifically wanted him to do was draw like Jack Kirby, because Jack Kirby was what they knew, and they'd had lots of success with Jack Kirby. So they asked him to change. They just did. And if you start looking at his early work versus once he'd been at Marvel for a little while, you can definitely see that like he changed the pace of his storytelling and his layouts, like how he would have like big hulking guys come towards him. If you look at his earliest comics at Marvel, the Hulk isn't even that big. Like his characters are much more realistically proportioned, whereas Jack Kirby drew very big, bulky, like Herculean forms, and that's what was popular, and that's some of the stuff that he did. And my episode has been successful enough that now if you Google Jack Kirby, John Buscema, clone, you're going to see either my episode or comments about the episode. But before I put that up, if you Googled that, you would see other serious artists have made that comparison before. That was not my original supposition. I was talking about like some of the stuff he did to become considered that. Don't get me wrong, he was definitely his own artist. He's a great artist, but he did make his characters bigger. He made his layouts more dynamic, and he cribbed a lot of techniques from what he knew was popular and what he was asked to do. Why do people say that? First of all, thank you again for the super chat, and thank you, Chris Sears. That's very kind of both of you. People say it because of how he bulked up his characters, how he had them like sort of dynamically walking right towards the panel. He took a lot of little techniques from Jack Kirby, and because he was asked to. And so when he was new, it's hard to jump back in time then. But like at the time, people were like, "Oh, this guy's trying to be like Jack Kirby." Well, yeah, he was. That's what was successful. That's what was asked of him. That's what he did. But he did it very, very well in his own way as well. He's one of the best. He really is. Hopefully that makes sense. I love your drawings. Well, that's kind of you. Just sketching away, looking for an excuse to chat with everybody, which I always enjoy. I'm very grateful for having an audience, and I'm very grateful that you guys are with me on this journey to discovering and learning more and more about comics. So I want to connect with you, and this is the only way I can think of, especially right now, So yeah, thank you all for jumping in. It's really means a lot to me. What's your guilty pleasure? Well, these days it would probably just be like, one of two things. Watching TV or playing a video game is a guilty pleasure because I feel like I should be working on comic tropes with every free moment that I have. Or eating anything that like sort of has sugar or carbs in it, because I should really be eating healthier. But so if I allow myself to have some chips or something, that's my guilty pleasure these days. Best psychedelic comics. Well, first of all, I would say that Ditko is up there. There's a lot of artists in the sort of 50s and then the 70s with underground comics. Robert Crumb can have some pretty psychedelic stuff. I think that I think you could argue that today Daniel Warren Johnson is pretty psychedelic. That his stuff is, man, it blows me away. It might be the like sort of new artist that I'm most excited about seeing what he makes. Like I see his stuff and it just blows me away. Jim Steranko. Yeah, Jim Steranko's good. You know, I'm trying to prepare an episode on what made Steranko so special. And it's taken a lot of work behind the scenes because there's a specific thing Steranko did that I really admire that's never been reprinted. It was only in some original issues of Heavy Metal magazine in the 80s. And I believe I have them all now, but definitely took a while to be able to get, that artwork. And because it's a necessary component if I'm going to make an episode about him. Let's see. Cool. Another super chat. By the way, I'm learning to draw from Buscema's artwork and How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, which I currently own. Well, I think that is definitely a great source. It'll definitely teach you a lot about the ways comics were made and still are. I definitely would also recommend doing as much as you can to draw from real life, because you're always going to need to go back at some point to the basics. Otherwise, you'll get like too stylized, and you won't be able to draw stuff without reference and stuff. So you just need to constantly draw from real life if you want to be a good comic book artist, as compared to drawing from like looking at other comics or something like that. But good for you. I hope your journey goes very well. I hope it's a fun journey, because the only way that it's going to look good is if you're passionate about it, and you're only going to be able to be passionate about it if you're enjoying things. So good luck with all of that. That's awesome. Let's see. Are you going to answer questions I just got here? I'm trying to answer whatever I look up at and see. So yeah, I'm definitely trying to answer questions tonight. I fully acknowledge I will probably miss some, and that is definitely nothing personal. Doing whatever I can. You dozed off. Do you think you would ever do a video on Age of Apocalypse like the Clone Saga? Maybe. I don't have problems per se with Age of Apocalypse the same way I did with Clone Saga. It was, a unique, fun experiment. So, yeah, we'll see. Oh, hello, Clay. Thank you for jumping in. I don't have a question or even anything interesting to say. I just really love your videos and wanted to say that to you. The drawing looks great. Well, Danny, thank you so much. That's really nice of you. Thaddeus says, I really enjoy your dives into artists. It's cool to hear about the success stories and the drama, but I really like the insights into how a style was developed. Yeah, thanks. An episode on Jeff Johns or Alan Moore. While I haven't necessarily done one on either of them specifically, I have done an episode on Doomsday Clock and an episode on Miracle Man, which are both prominent works by them, where I do really break down some of what makes each of them unique as writers. So just so you know, like, you could watch either my Doomsday Clock episode or my Miracle Man episode and learn a bit about what I think about them as creators. Your opinion on Predator and Alien being published by Marvel? I mean, it makes sense. I mean, they own Fox Studios now, so yeah, I get where that came from. I don't know. They have access to a lot of good creators, so hopefully they make some cool comics. Dark Horse certainly did a great job on them for many, many years. So I'll miss that, but yeah. Air Pirates Funnies. I'm not sure if I've read Air Pirates Funnies. I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't think I've read it. You know what? This is way darker than I want to use. Let's try more like this. What was my favorite Milestone title? As a younger guy, it was definitely Static, and I also remember liking Hardware quite a bit. But when I went back and looked at Dwayne McDuffie's stuff, I think these days I appreciate Icon the most. Yeah. Steve Lickman. No, I don't know him. Before I go, I just want to give you a heads up. And speaking of Buscema, that not only was Mark Bagley was inspired by Alan Davis, but he was also influenced by John Buscema, Gil Kane, and Neil Adams. I think that honestly, anybody that came up in like the 80s and 90s was influenced by those guys. The Buscema, Gil Kane, Neil Adams, they're all titans. They are. They're just all amazing. So I totally get it. What other questions do we have? Have you read the issue of 2000 AD that has the story about Shaun of the Dead? No, I haven't. Good night, Aiden. Did you read any of those weird Looney Tunes comics from DC? I'm trying to remember. No, I didn't read them. I was speaking with my comic shop owner about several of them. The one that sounded most interesting to me was, who's that? Like, he's not a panther. He's like, but he's like, I talk like this even. Who was he? Like he's pink. He's like some sort of a cat guy, and they based him on like in the DC comics on like a famous Southern playwright. Who am I thinking of? Snagglepuss. That one sounded really interesting. I have not read Superman Up in the Sky. No. I haven't read any of the comics that have Punchline in them. Sorry. Looks like just sort of like a knockoff of Harley Quinn, since they've sort of turned Harley Quinn into a good guy, more or less. Am I reading that right? Now, if I had more Copic markers than what I actually do, right now, instead of like just blending with grays, I would actually be blending with like particular darker blues that are just like a notch darker, but I just don't have those, so all I can do is sort of darken up things with these Copics. It'll present with a little bit better results, I think, than if I didn't do this. But it's tough. What do you think of Dan Slott? I feel like he ruins characters, but at the same time, I like his ambition. I like Dan Slott. I was talking about that earlier tonight. I think that he's... I like his sense of humor, and I really liked his run on Spider-Man. I haven't read a lot aside from that, though, to be honest. But I really liked what he did with his run on Spider-Man quite a bit. So, I'm a fan. Do these markers overlap each other's colors? Yeah, they're alcohol based, so you can basically do whatever you want with them in terms of just sort of blending and darkening and stuff. It's pretty cool. That's kind of why I like playing with them. They're just really fun, and you can smooth them out if you're really patient and stuff like that. So there's a lot of fun stuff you can do with Copics. I think it just gives it like this subtle bit of depth. Hopefully that's obvious. We'll see. What other questions are there? Let's see. What are your thoughts on the MVC games? I don't know what those are. Sorry. You could use cool grays on cold colors and warm grays on... Oh, that's true. I probably could. Yeah, that's not... Yeah, I should have basically been using this on the blue... and then like maybe the brown, but that's about it. Oh well, I am. Yep, that was a good tip. Wasn't thinking 100%. Oh well. Well, I'm probably going to wrap up in just a little bit, folks. I don't think there's much more that I can really do to make this look better, and it seems like I've answered most people's questions at this point, so don't want to just sort of outstay my welcome. I certainly am very grateful for all the super chats tonight. That just really helps tremendously. And, you know, I'm hard at work on several Comic Tropes episodes right now. Very excited to bring those forward as soon as I can. Hope this wasn't too boring or anything for anyone. I've had fun. I've had fun talking to everybody. Let's see. Murder on Ballet Drive by Bujet Tan Areed. Oh, give it. If you're interested in something new. Okay. Sorry I was so late. X-Force for life. X-Force! Thank you very much for the super chat. That's super kind. Your style reminds me of George Perez. Wow. I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever thought of him as an influence, but that's kind of you. Yeah, there's a lot to appreciate there. I don't know. You know what? I guess I haven't done an episode on George Perez, have I? Because all of a sudden I'm thinking about it, and I feel like I can't think of an episode that's specifically about him. Huh. Well, I'll have to do that someday for sure. He's definitely given us a lot. Now he's retired, so we probably won't get anything else from him. But there's a lot that he's done for comics, and I've enjoyed a lot of his work. Avengers and Teen Titans. Two things that I love by him. Have I ever had a comic idea of my own? Lots. Lots. I've self-published tons of comics. It's not stuff that I really have readily available anymore. Yeah, I don't think I have any down here in this room. I was looking around. I've got some of them upstairs in my studio that I record the show in. I don't know. Maybe I'll show them someday. I don't think it's that interesting because they are kind of older at this point. But yeah, I've done lots of comics, and I've even had comics. Oh, it's so frustrating. I've had comics that I've pitched to Image that have been accepted, but then the artist for whatever reason hadn't been able to turn around art in time. That happened twice. Turn the art around in a fast enough time period, and so both projects got dropped. But that was also a while ago, so I haven't pitched in quite a while. But I have ideas. I still write for fun, and I would love to have a comic published at some point. I've got lots of ideas. But right now, here's what's preventing me, and you're like, well, why don't you just make them? I want to be able to pay my artist a good wage. I want to hire a good artist and be able to pay them what I think that they're worth. That's important to me, and right now I don't feel like I've got that kind of income where I could afford to do something like that. But hopefully someday I do. That would be cool. Alright, I think that'll do it for tonight. That didn't come out too bad, right? Not too bad. I'll even sign this one. There we go. Perez did the Avengers in the 70s, then he did it again in the 90s. It's great. I do some digital art. Yeah. I should create my own universe. I don't know that I necessarily want to create my own universe of superhero characters, but I've got a lot of ideas that are... one or two of them are superheroes. I've got a couple horror ideas, and I've got a couple sci-fi ideas. So that's sort of what interests me more. And if I could find a great artist, I would love to collaborate and try to get that... try to get that made someday. That would be really cool. I think it's possible, but first I need to make the channels more successful. So anyway, write and draw a webcomic. Well, right now I'm just stretched too thin, Mandela Butterfly. I've got a full-time job, and with every free hour I'm trying to make content for Comic Tropes, minus a little bit of downtime every once in a while for my mental health. I consider this downtime. This is me relaxing and having a break, but trying to be productive at the same time by communicating with my audience and trying to sharpen my skills just a little bit for fun. But this is my downtime. Let's see. Do you do commissions? No, I don't really have much time for commissions, Naj. I've been asked, and I would love to. Sometimes it's tempting because I know I could make some money there, but I just don't feel like I would be very good at turning it around very quickly. So I don't want to disappoint anyone. So right now I'm not open for commissions. But thank you very much. That's definitely flattering to be asked. I just don't feel like I don't think I could commit to it right now. What are those markers with the square caps? Copics? Yeah, Copics. I should get more, but these are all Copics. Anyway, I had a blast, guys. And gals and others. Thank you all. Thanks for talking to us. It's nice watching you because I don't know anyone that reads comics in real life, but with your videos it's like having a friend to talk comics with. That's awesome. That's great. You could draw your own comic if you had time. I don't have the time. And honestly, Ro, if I can do a little pinup that looks good, cool. Am I the kind of guy that could crank out, a page a day of sequentials? No. Could I crank out a sequential once every 3 days? Maybe. But I also might burn out. I'm not in practice, and I don't have the time. I just don't have the time. I wish I did. But for now, my focus is on Comic Tropes. If I can get it to a point where I could do YouTube full-time, then I could create more content. And if then... that was successful, then I'd probably be able to afford to hire an artist for some of my comic ideas. because I'll be honest, I analyze comics, and I do have some opinions on what I think would work. It would be very interesting to actually test that. Anyway, yeah. I really appreciate getting to chat with everyone. Thank you so much. I'm going to definitely take off right now, but I will be working on the next episode for the following weekend, if not sooner. And I've got a lot of Comic Tropes episodes in various stages of completion at this point. So anyway, thank you all. I will talk to you soon. If you have further questions, just check out the Comic Tropes social media stuff. It's Comic Tropes on like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Basically all the channels. So see y'all. You guys are all great. Bye.